Yep, 8.5 months later we were treated to WWF Smackdown 2 Know Your Role. Normally, we would have to wait a year or two for a sequel. Like most FIFA games at the time, they would be a year apart, and there was 2 years between Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2. This game was going to be bigger than the first as it had a larger roster, more matches, more cut wrestlers, a bigger season mode, and more championships to win. It was only going to be awesome. The gameplay mechanics for WWF Smackdown 2 is exactly the same as WWF Smackdown. X button punches, hitting the X button multiple times pulls off a combo, X in a direction pulls off either a clothesline, kick, drop kick, etc. The triangle button runs, the square button blocks or reverses, the circle button in the direction pulls off a grapple attack, you can attack them on the ground, from the turnbuckle, etc. You can taunt, to pin your opponent is the circle button and down on the D-pad, win by submission, and KO again. Finally, you can hit your opponent with your Smackdown finisher by pressing L1 if you fill up your meter, and you can start or store up to 5 Smackdown finishers. Here's the cool thing you can do in a hardcore match. So, you can fight all over the arena. If you make it outside of the arena, cars will come by and you can get hit by the car, just like Rikishi running over Stone Cold. That's just brilliant. I'm just wondering if it was Rikishi behind the wheel, again doing it for The Rock. In the special referee match you can now choose 2 referees. What's up with that? It makes for a wild and chaotic match. I know this isn't a gameplay mechanic, but I wanted to get it out there. Finally, if you're a champion and defending the championship in a match, you walk to the ring with your belt. Basically, they didn't change much and we ate it up. You know the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. WWF Smackdown 2 Know Your Role greatly increased its roster, including the characters that can be unlocked. There's a whopping 66 wrestlers you can pick from, 57 male wrestlers and 9 women's wrestlers. Still a large ratio, but hey, it isn't 3 this time around. And they've gotten rid of the random order that they listed wrestlers. They've been put in an alphabetical order. Pure bliss. There were 30 new playable wrestlers and NPCs who appeared in WWF Smackdown 2 Know Your Role and not WWF Smackdown, including future Hall of Famers such as Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle, Lita, Shawn Michaels, and Trish Stratus. Here's the full list. There are 7 championships for these 66 superstars to wrestle for. Just want to quickly point out that when you look at the design of the Intercontinental and European Championships, they have the old school WWF logo. First off, we get the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship, which makes its first appearance in the SmackDown series after being left out of the first game. Of course, as you can imagine, this is only available to light heavyweight wrestlers. The WWF Women's Championship makes its return and only available to women's wrestlers. The other championships from WWF SmackDown also return. The WWF Hardcore, European, Tag Team, Intercontinental, and WWF Championship are all available to win in the game. Similar to the previous game, women's wrestlers can win the Hardcore, European, and Intercontinental Championship, but not the WWF Championship. The ranking system has been revamped. Instead of an overall ranking system where you have to be above a certain position in the rankings to challenge for a championship, they are now split into divisions. Wrestlers have been put into specific divisions, and similar to the previous game, you have to work your way up the rankings in your division to challenge for the championship. You can move wrestlers from one division to another, so if you want to recreate Triple H defending the WWF Championship against Taka Michinoku, you totally can. As I said earlier, there were 30 new wrestlers and NPCs introduced in the game. To go with the new introductions, we saw some wrestlers cut, or as someone would say, Two notable names were removed from the roster before the release of the game. First off, Big Show. By the time WWF Smackdown 2 was released, Big Show was a former WWF champion and had participated in the main event of WrestleMania 2000. During the summer of 2000, Big Show was sent to WWE's developmental territory, OVW, to refine his skills and to also lose weight. So, he was cut from the game. The second is Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock was a former WWF Intercontinental and Tag Team Champion, and the reason for his removal from WWF SmackDown 2 is simple. He left WWE to return to MMA. More features returned from WWF SmackDown. One of them is the Creator Wrestler feature, and the other is Creator Pay-Per-View. Yep, you can continue to let your imagination and fantasy booking run wild. The main difference between SmackDown 1 and SmackDown 2 is the number of matches you can do in Creator Pay-Per-View. In SmackDown 1 you could book up to 6 matches, whilst in SmackDown 2 you can book up to 8 matches. You can still name the pay-per-view and your matches, and event will still be ranked. All the match types from SmackDown 1 return in SmackDown 2 with lots of new variations, but I won't bore you with the variations, so let's just get to the new matches. The Casket Match. In real life, the casket is normally outside the ring and you have to close the lid of the casket to win after you beat your opponent senseless. In SmackDown 2, you can carry the casket, use it as a weapon, flip them inside, beat and stomp on your opponent until they lay down and the lid of the casket magically appears. That's me, super confused. Iron Man match. In this match you have a time limit and whoever gets the most pinfalls and submissions wins. Simple. Ladder match. The championship hangs above the ring. Beat up your opponent, climb the ladder and grab the championship. One more thing I have to note is that every championship you grab is the European Championship. Even with the WWF Championship on the line, you grab the European Championship. Table match. The aim of this match is to put your opponent through the table. Simple. This can be played one-on-one or tornado tag. TLC match. This is exactly like a ladder match but with tables and chairs. There are two styles to this. One is where you have to win by pinfall or submission. The other is where you win in the exact same way as a ladder match. Up next is the Slobber Knocker. This is more of a gauntlet match. You start the match and you face an opponent, pin them, make them tap out or KO them, they're out. Then another wrestler takes their place. Once you are pinned, KO'd or tap out, you lose. Basically, aim to get the highest score. Finally, there's Hell in a Cell. Now, I need to point this out straight away. This is what a Hell in a Cell match looked like when it was first introduced. A cage that encompasses the ring. It's 20 foot tall and it is one of the most dangerous matches in WWE. Just ask Mick Foley. This is the Hell in a Cell match in SmackDown 2. The cell is attached to the ring like a steel cage and has a roof. To break through the top of the cell is a mission in itself sometimes. Anyway, to win is by pinfall or submission. Once again, the biggest feature of SmackDown 2 is the season mode. Same thing applies here as well as SmackDown 1. You play as either a creative wrestler or a wrestler in the game and wrestle your way to the top of the mountain and become the WWF champion. You play out a bunch of storylines with cutscenes and random things happen. There are two things to note here. The first is when you skip a match, it goes into this secondary screen with the avatar for each wrestler with an energy bar beneath them. Whoever runs out first loses the match. A neat little innovation, but also somewhat unnecessary. The second thing, and anyone who has played SmackDown 2 will agree with me, but the number of load screens is excruciating. Like, good God, it's so painful. Anyway, I decided to play 1 year of the season mode as Kane, and I'm going to give you some of the main things about this season playthrough. Let's have a look at the highlights. In April, my main feud was against Matt Hardy. We faced each other a few times, but it didn't really amount to much. The only other main thing to point out is that they recreated the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin and blowing up the DX Express in the build-up to Backlash 2000. In May, there was no real feud, and I had some matches in May against random wrestlers. I was approached by Shane McMahon though to interfere on his behalf in a match he had against Lita. I mean, I'm not gonna hurt Lita, so I screwed him over and beat the out of him. Also, I unlocked Shawn Michaels as he became the special guest referee for Triple H vs The Rock at Judgment Day. June was an interesting month. To begin with, my main feud was against Kurt Angle, and at the start of this feud he was attacked by an unknown assailant in week 1, and because of this, it led to 6 cutscenes in week 1. I then had a match against a random jobber known as Unknown You. Then I got to King of the Ring and went ahead and won the tournament. And I unlocked Billy Gunn. In July I had no real feud and nothing much happened on that front, but I did unlock TLC single, which is pretty neat I guess. The biggest downer of this month was that there was way too much focus on the feud between The Rock and Stone Cold, which led to far too many cutscenes between them. In August, once again, no real feud. Yay! We did get to see Stone Cold destroy Vince's car in week 1, so that was pretty cool. Other things to note are that Vince approached me to interfere on his behalf in a match between him and The Rock. I agreed and helped Vince get the win. I unlocked the Stooges, Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe. Finally, at SummerSlam, I was going to main event the show against Grandmaster Sexay. I ended up going to see Shane in the VIP suite and a proposal that I made was accepted. I thought this was gonna lead me to getting a title match against The Rock, but it led to me getting a match with that huge main event player, Billy Gunn. In September, once again, no real feud. Go me. I unlocked the most dominant faction in wrestling history, the Mean Street Posse. Rejected an invitation to interfere on Shane's behalf. Then this happened. So, I get to Unforgiven and I see our main event in the show against X-Pac. Not ideal, but whatever, I'm used to being disappointed and not get my title match by this point. But, once again, I'm in the VIP suite and I make a proposal to Shawn Michaels, which gets accepted. He changes my match and then the ultimate cock tease happens. I see that I'm going to be main eventing Unforgiven against The Rock, but not for the WWF Championship. What the actual In October I had a mini feud with Stone Cold which came to an end after week 3, and there was a lot of focus on The Rock versus the McMahons. In November, once again, there was no real feud for me or title match, but I was asked by Vince again to interfere on his behalf, so this time I said no. The coolest thing that happened was that I unlocked Table Tornado Tag in week 1 as the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys were going at it. Then after the match, they recreated Bubba Ray Dudley giving a powerbomb from the middle rope through a table and recreating him entering his trance-like state. That was pretty cool. In December, I was entangled in a weird 3-way feud between myself, Chris Benoit and Vince McMahon. Nothing else happened. In January, my main feud was against Benoit after he was taken out by the jobber known as Unknown D. There was 2 pointless cutscenes in week 4, but I did go ahead and win the Royal Rumble as I entered at number 30 and last eliminated Crash Holly to win. In February, my main feud was against X-Pac. I unlocked not 1, but 2 wrestlers in this month. Deborah in week 1 and Cactus Jack as they recreated the feud between Cactus Jack and Triple H from No Way Out 2000. Then, in March, I had no real feud throughout the month, got to unlock Mick Foley as they went ahead and partially recreated the main event of WrestleMania 2000 by having a triple threat match between The Rock, Mick Foley and Triple H, leaving out The Big Show. So, what are the main points to this 1-year season playthrough? First of all, as you can imagine, I was very frustrated at becoming the #1 contender, winning King of the Ring and the Royal Rumble, and not receiving a title match. There was an epic feud between Dean Malenko and Jeff Hardy for the Light Heavyweight Championship as they traded the belt a few times. Then, in the Light Heavyweight division, S.A. Rios just dominated the division. Seriously, no one could beat him for the title, and he ended up defending it 9 times. Finally, they did a very cool job in recreating popular moments and storylines from real life, like the DX Express exploding, the Bubba powerbomb through the table, and Austin destroying Vince's car. Similar to WWF Smackdown, WWF Smackdown 2 Know Your Role received very positive reviews. Here are some of the scores it received upon release. Daniel Erickson of Next Gen commended tons of options and multiplayer matches. Star Dingo of GamePro praised the selection of wrestlers, matches and new options in the game, such as Anywhere Full mode. Lambchop, also of GamePro, commended the gameplay, controls and graphics. The game received a Platinum Sales Award from the ELSPA after selling at least 300,000 units in the UK. Also, the game was nominated for Best Sports Game Alternative Award at GameSpot's Best and Worst of 2000 Awards. It was the runner-up for the Best Extreme Sports Game and Best Multiplayer Game Awards at the official US PlayStation Magazine 2000 Editors Awards. The game did win the award for action in Reader's Choice at IGN's Best of 2000 Awards. The biggest complaint about the game from multiple publications was the season mode. The season mode had been described as tiresome and received much criticism. I can agree with that, because during 1 week when I was playing as Kane, there were 6 cutscenes. It drains you because you want to get to your match but can't because you've got the bloody constant cutscenes and loading screens. With WWF Smackdown 2 Know Your Role, I could easily say that this is indeed better than WWF Smackdown. The wrestlers you could choose, all the matches you could play, just everything was awesome, and I would spend hours playing this game. Okay, maybe not so much the season mode because oh my god yes, it is laborious, but the game as a whole, solo or with friends, was great. WWE had struck gold twice with WWF Smackdown and WWF Smackdown 2 Know Your Role. And with the Monday Night Wars slowly coming to an end, the question was, could WWE strike gold 3 times in a row? Well, here's the next game in the series.
You can't make a game as lifelike as Smackdown Just Bring It without the help of an expert.
You call this texture mapping? Out of the way, Junior. I think we need to add a few more polygons to Stephanie.
Mr. Jericho, can you write down that compression algorithm?
I'm a little busy, Junior.
Yes, thanks to help from WWF superstar Chris Jericho, Just Bring It is the most electrifying, trash-talking, realistic Smackdown game yet.
See how I arch my back like so?
I can't feel my legs.
Rated T for T.